Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm just going to set up right here. Okay, I hope everyone is excited to get it going. My name is Lizzy, and I'm going to be diving on deep into the wild, wild west of marketing and NFTs. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you for all for making the time to show up. And yeah, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you and just a few outtakes before we start. If you do have any questions, there is a Q&A button right at the bottom. Make sure you send all your questions there so that we don't miss the questions in the comments because it might get all exciting. So make sure you put the comment questions there and we'll try to get to as many as possible. I hope you're all ready. Get your pens, get your popcorn, your drinks. We will be sending this doc out because I made a presentation. So if you did miss anything, do not worry. You'll be able to have access to it. All right, so 1 second, let me share my lovely screen here. Da, 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 da. All right. Okay. Marketing NFTs 101. My artist name is Lizzy and I'm going to be presenting. So let's get started. Just to make sure this is all good. Da, 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 da. All right. So, yeah, that's me. We'll get into all the things that I do in this world. But I'm an artist, a curator, a brand builder. I do it all. I'm a 25-year-old Nigerian Canadian self taught multimedia artist, creative, and filmmaker. I attended the University of Toronto where I majored in CCIT, which is short for communications, culture, information technology, and I double minored in film studies and sociology, which was also joined with Sheridan College for a diploma in digital communications. Bodied art form was created in 2022 to house all things created by me, such as my metallic acrylic portrait paintings, sculptures, NFTs, films, and photography. And I currently work at a platform called OpenSea as a social media manager. All right. I get to be the clicker of my own destiny here. So, obviously, we're going to jump into what an NFT is. In short, it's a non fungible token, but I know that many people say that, and it's still just like, what? Right? So we're going to break it down just a little bit. NFTs are digital artifacts that each have unique information or attributes that make them irreplaceable or impossible to swap. Now, when you think about that, think about money. If you had a $10 bill and you gave someone a $10 bill and they give you another $10 bill back, it would be the same $10 bill. There's no difference. They'll take it. They won't say that's not my $10 bill. They'll take it. Whereas an NFT is not. And you will basically, each one has a unique attribution or unique quality to it that makes it different from the other NFT that is, let's say, in a collection. So that's basically the difference between fungibility and non fungibility. And if you have any questions, make sure again you add them into the Q&A and we will get to them as we go. And yeah, let's move on. So I guess from there, when you understand NFT, you start to go, okay, but I've also heard about cryptocurrencies. What is that? Well, your NFT, which is a digital artifact, is also combined with a cryptocurrency, and it can depend on whatever chain you're using. So Ethereum and Ether is a decentralized open source blockchain with smart contract functionality, which is why we can have an NFT. And Ether is the native currency of that platform. Then you move on to Polygon. And don't worry, you don't need to know too much about this. You just need to know that there are different cryptocurrencies. It gets very technical. And today we're going to focus a little bit about marketing. But you have Polygon and Matic, Polygon and Matic. Matic is used to power the network and serve as a utility token for Polygon. And Matic has grown to be the unicorn in the crypto space and is currently the only live layer 2 scaling solution in Ethereum for Ethereum. And then you have Sol and Solana. Solana is a public blockchain platform with smart contract functionality. Its native currency is Sol. So yeah, that's just a bit about the currencies that we have. And don't worry, it does not need to, you don't need to get too heightened all over this, just know that you can accept Ether, Polygon, or Matic or Sol as forms of currencies for the things that you're selling for your NFTs. So we are going to move on to platforms. So platforms are the major ways that people can sell NFTs on. It's just like when you think about in Web 2, where you have Etsy, you have Shopify, you have different places for you to sell digital goods or anything that you wanted to sell, even if it's a physical good. In the Web3 space, you have platforms such as Zora, OpenSea, Rarible, Maker's Place, the list goes on. And I've given you a few that you can kind of like go through and just see what the vibe of the platform is. And there are stuff to know about some certain platforms. So, for instance, on OpenSea, lazy minting is the process in which you, as the creator, will only have to pay like a one time fee to authenticate your account. And then you can continue to add and create and list NFTs onto the website for free. The minting, which is process of putting this NFT onto the blockchain, that fee goes on to the person who buys it. So you as the creator don't have to actually like pay to put something up onto the blockchain each time. It's gone to the person, which is referred to as lazy minting, which means you're basically putting the NFT onto the website, but it's not yet onto the blockchain until that person then buys it, which is when it actually mints, lazy minting. And then you have certain platforms that are application based where you actually they only have an open call every so often, and you have to apply, and they'll have like a bunch of questions for you or ask you to submit a video, some stuff about you as an artist. And then there are platforms that are invite only, where creators who are existing on the platform, when they make sales or do different things, they start to accrue invites that they can then send to other artists to participate on that platform. With these platforms, you actually have to pay to list and to mint onto that platform, meaning that for each time you want to put something onto, let's say, Foundation, you have to pay to list it onto their website, and you have to pay to mint it onto the blockchain. And then you also have to pay to receive your money if your NFT sells. Now, this can be a little bit harder for artists who are just starting off, but that's why you have really cool platforms like OpenSea and Rarible that make it a little bit easier to just play around with this new concept and new technology. Then you have Zora, which is if you want to use it, it's also, you can just connect your wallet and you can use it, and it allows you to basically create your own marketplace within the platform. It gets a little technical, so make sure you take some time and like look at these platforms and see what's going on and how they work. There are two different ways in which that if you want to sell an NFT, you can. The first way is if you have an auction going on. Platforms like Zora are auction only, and they might have buy now prices. I just haven't checked it yet, so make sure you check it. Don't quote me on that. But you can basically set your NFT in an auction, meaning there's a reserve price, and then you can sell. You can put it up as listed, and if someone else wants it, they'll put a bid in. And if someone else is like, "Ooh, I want it," they'll put another bid in, and it can just like go up until that last person's like, "Look, I can't do this," and the other person wins. And basically, you've now like increased the price based off of the popularity of two people, three people for trying to get that NFT. And then you have a buy now option, which is specifically like, this is the price and this is the price. So buy it at this price. And those are kind of like the two options in which you have to sell an NFT. Some platforms are auction only, and some platforms are auction and buy now. So again, check out some NFTs, click on them, look at their descriptions, and see what people are doing in this space, and they'll give you a little bit of insight on what's going on. I'll just do a quick reminder. If you have questions, make sure you send your questions to the Q&A, which is right at the bottom. Should be on the right side. Yes, if I may believe, if I right between participants, but you can put your questions there and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Um,
Sorry to
hey,
interrupt. Quick question that just came in, I thought could be
hey.
a good one to ask you. Gab asked, are the fees for lazy minting, such as OpenSea, Rarible, etc., paid one time or per NFT piece?
So for OpenSea, the lazy minting, the whole aspect is that you're going to pay a one-time fee to authenticate an action. So the first time you create an NFT, you'll pay the gas price, which is on the network. OpenSea or the platform don't control gas fees. These are all on the cryptocurrency side. But you pay that one-time fee to authenticate that buy now action. And then let's say if you're doing an auction for the first time, you'll pay that first authentication fee, and then you can continuously do that action again without having to pay. I hope I cleared that up. But I also like touch quickly on gas fees, just really quickly. It's a little. I just want to make sure people have an understanding that when you think about gas fees, think about like the processing transaction fee that you get on your Visa. When you go to a store, they're like, oh, there's a $2 fee to be able to, if you're going to use your Visa card. That's in the same way that Ethereum and some networks have fees. And some fees are higher because of the amount of people who are processing transactions at a certain time. So think of Uber and people in a specific location that are trying to order an Uber at the same time. Uber puts up an Uber surge fee, and whoever actually wants to get the Uber at whatever hiked price, they'll get it. But that's the same way that you have interestingly high gas fees on Ethereum, but on different platforms because they are structured in a different way. They have a lot lower gas fees, so Solana and Matic. But yeah, that's just a quick touch up. I don't want to get you confused. We are here to focus on marketing, but I'm going to give you a little bit of tips. But I hope that was helpful, and I will move on now. All right, so we're going to talk about like the social media platforms that I guess are stuff that people should really look into and lean on as ways to self promote, because in this space you're basically entering the wild west, okay, where you are a sovereign body and entity. You become your own curator, you become your own artist, you become your own advertiser, you do all the work, but these platforms are giving you a place to sell your work. So think about like Twitter, Discord, Instagram, TikTok creatively as a great platform to also meet other artists and like jobs and opportunities, which is going to be great for your career and for you to push yourself as an artist, which is very important in this art career that you're trying to build. You got LinkedIn, personal website, and virtual galleries. I'm going to touch a little bit more specifically about each platform. And if I don't, I believe that I don't have a few slides for certain social media platforms, but we'll still talk about them, and I'll talk about why I don't have slides for it. Um, all right, let's keep it going. So, okay, we're going to go into Twitter. Now, Twitter is a very important platform. It's basically where the whole entirety of Web3, specifically around NFTs, the communities speak, and in a public nature. Of course, you have Discord, but it is a little bit secluded because not everyone's on Discord, but a lot of people on Twitter, and it's where open conversations are held. So it's very important if you are going to start, even if you weren't on it. Trust me, you're going to want to be on it. We're going to go through a few threads. There's a checklist and there's a tweet thread that talks about some things that I think are really important, which is like the updated bio, the link navigation, stuff like that. And there's going to be maybe a bit of repetition, but it is really important to say things twice so that you remember. All right, so let's go into the tweet thread. Okay, let me just make sure. Creatively, we can see this, correct?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much, Lizzy.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's get into basically why it's important to be on certain platforms and how you can better utilize these platforms based off of my experience. So let's get into this tweet thread. So again, I will reiterate, let's start with Twitter. It's one of the biggest spaces to share your work with people who are already in the community and are already interacting with NFTs. And how you curate your page is important when you drop and just to know exist. And these are the three main things that I would suggest to polish. So so the first part, I'm going to be using my own account, of course, and another artist by the name of Kath Simard, which is an amazing photographer in the NFT space that has been doing amazing, and her work is phenomenal as a reference of like a polished profile page. So one of the things to keep in mind is that your banner, it's important. It should be well framed and should correlate to your brand, and even better, your drop, right? So I have a collection called the Ether Puffs, which is like a Web3 project that I hand draw and create, which is kind of in the realm of the PFPs, very nostalgic to the Powerpuff Girls, but they're called the Ether Puffs. Don't get it twisted. And we're going to go into basically why your bio should be concise, but also, be well represented. So here I make it important. It's important to explain that I'm a multidisciplinary artist. Uh, okay, I don't know what happened there. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and I'm the creator of the Ether Puffs. Tap into, see my latest drop, which is where you have the link to it and a little bit more about, I guess, things where I am. It's important to have that because as soon as somebody is like popping into your page, you would want to be able to have them understand exactly what you do. Then there is Kat. She does the same job where her collection drop on Super Rare, which is a platform, is very well detailed. You know exactly the collection name, you can see a bit of the work, you know where it's found. She tells you that she's a photographer, she's a digital artist, and she's a workshop leader, and a little bit more about the type of stuff she does and her website with her link tree. Very important to have the navigation because you want to make sure that at every stop on social media, people know exactly where to go and find all the other things that you do. All right, so we're going to move on, well, specifically to the banner drops. Also, if you have varying drops of art that have, a specific vibe, it's a different collection, update those banners and make sure that you show people on social media that this is exactly what you want them to focus on. Because I want everyone to focus on the Ether Puffs. I haven't changed mine and it's always just been there. And maybe I should update some new puffs so that, some people see some other puffs. But again, it's just part of like the brand identity. We're going to move into the tweets. I'm going to be using a friend, Dark Myths. He's a 3D artist and he's amazing. And he's done some really like major stuff on some like really big productions in like on Marvel and DC and stuff. So tap into him. He did an amazing job with the pin tweet, which is an important aspect because sometimes a lot of the tweets, if you're retweeting other people, it can get lost. And you want to make sure that people who are looking, or if you're trying to send a message about something that's important, you want people to remember, you want them to see, always have a pinned tweet. And it should at least give explanations to what people can find. Now, there is something here where I always suggest that if you are adding a link to your work, that you make sure that you remove the link derived image, because if somebody wanted to quote retweet his tweet right now, the image would actually go away and it would be like a little bit harder to see the images. So yeah, we're gonna move on back to the slide here. Link navigation is really important, which I expressed. It's where you can basically add all your other platforms that you're on. You can add all your social media links and you can have it in one place so that people can find everything at different angles. So on Instagram, on Twitter, anywhere they go, they can click a link tree and they can find other things. It's really important to follow other artists. And it's really important to retweet your favorites because when you support other people, they'll want to support you. The space is not only about just selling, but it's about supporting people who you actually, vibe with. Quickly go into this other thread and you can find it and go into a deeper detail. It's about like tweeting structures and how you should checklist your tweets basically. And you can go through here where I basically give you the breakdown of things that you want to make sure you have in your tweets when you are talking about your work. Goes into detail, it has everything you need. Promise you that it has worked well for me. And I did great in terms of like being able to communicate my work when I was really pushing that at the time. So if you want to go into that, this deck will be shared and you can find the link checklist and the thread above to go into to dive deeper. So then we're going to go into Instagram. It's really, really important, again, in the same respect, to have sorry, it's really important to have an updated bio in the same way that we talked about Twitter, the same link to navigation, refined posts, and this just means like a curation. I know a lot of the time people say it might not be that important to have Instagram in the NFT space because not everyone is really involved with NFTs on Instagram, but your Instagram is still kind of your portfolio. So if people are looking at your work and trying to find the entirety of your work and they go to Instagram, how well are you showcasing your work on it? Are you showing them a really cool, cohesive, coded or, vibe coded aesthetic? You should find your aesthetic and you should showcase that. Um, and then again, following other artists, you can find a lot of inspiration and not by copying their work. I'm not talking about copying, no, 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 but inspiration on how they are speaking to their audiences through following the artists and engage on your story. And I will talk about why that's how you can do that creatively with this next slide, which is TikTok. Now, TikTok is important-ish because it hasn't really, NFTs haven't like found its like humongous space there yet, but there are a lot of artists that are using TikTok. A lot of artists have found that, getting the attention on TikTok, people are going through and clicking through and finding their collections and participating. A lot of people have found success. You can also create really unique videos with trending sounds, and that can be your content that you take to your story. That can be your content that you take onto Instagram. And it's great to just make it easy for yourself to actually create content and visuals that can engage people in different ways. Creatively is another amazing platform. It brought all of you here today to listen to me and spiel about NFTs and marketing, but it's also a great way to find jobs and discover other artists and really have a professional, cute layout to showcase your work as well. So definitely tap into the strengths of being able to be present on a lot of platforms because it will do you only go up. It will only go up from there, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Having a personal website is also important. I've definitely landed a lot of opportunities and situations with having my like website situated. It's great to have. It literally allows you to showcase everything. And at the end of the day, a social media platform is you renting out a space on the platform. At any time, they can take your account down for whatever reason. And you want to still allow people to navigate to something and know how to find whatever it is you do. So if you can, definitely try to get a website. I use Shopify because it allows me to also have the ability to sell like physical stuff, which is what I was doing before I got into NFTs. And yeah, basically it tells your whole story. We're going to go into the last slide, which I'm going to play a little bit about. And I'm giving you like, this is a gem because I don't really share this. But I used to create these things. Hold on, let me just pause it because it's going to play. Okay, so I used to create these things called digidecks, and it's basically a creative way to express your ideas, portfolios, and decks. Now, Canva allows you to kind of make presentations and then record over onto them. So that's a way to be able to do that. I used to just like literally make a deck, bring it into a video editing app, voice record, edit. It's a lot, but there are easier ways to do that now. But this is a really cool way to express your art to collectors. Like if you are trying to speak to somebody directly, like, hey, I think you would love my collection. I would love to get your email to send you over my portfolio so you can see the entirety of my work. Or if you're trying to do a collaboration with somebody and you really want to show them that you know what you're talking about, it's a very professional way and easy way to express yourself without having to rely on everyone thinking that everyone's going to read every word you say, especially if there's a lot of words. So I'm going to play a little bit of how I used to send some of my work to collectors. And I got a lot of great reactions. I'm gonna play it for a second, and creatively, if you can let me know if the sound is actually relaying, just let me know. Did you hear that?
We do not, unfortunately, Lizzy.
Ah, okay. Well, that's totally fine. I think that at the same time, um, what will happen is that it's going to be in the deck, and it's in the deck. So if you do want to like check it out, mind you, this is an old deck, and like a lot of what I did kind of changed over, but it's interesting to see the direction in which I was showing people my physical work, my NFTs, my prints, everything in a short video. So basically, this is my spiel about marketing in NFTs. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned a lot. I would love to get to some of the questions. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Lizzy. We had so many amazing questions. I'm like, where do we even start? Just so you guys know, for some reason, the link is appearing, or the document for the deck is appearing for some and not appearing for others. So I'm going to make a very fast WeTransfer deck for everyone. But know that if you guys still don't have access to it, you can email feedback@creatively.life. So you're welcome to get the PDF that way. That way you have access to all the links as well that Lizzy's taking you all through, and just have this to keep. So I will be sharing that shortly. But perhaps for our first question, Lizzy, we had people ask, let's see, where do we want to start?
Wait, can we actually pause quickly? I did a question of like, can we see the visuals of this, even if it doesn't have the sound of me
Oh,
explaining
sure,
it? I
go
can
for
just
it.
like go through a little bit, but and try to explain it as it goes, even though it's playing in my ear. So this would be like a way that I share. I'm basically voiceovering right now and reading what's written here. Um, oh, I went to the wrong place. The only issue is I think that the deck is a little bit too. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, no, it's not gonna work. Sorry. It's too close to the actual like clicker of the dock. So every time I try to move it, it goes back into the last slide. So please, if you can, check it out on the link. But I'm gonna pass it on to Creatively to get some questions going.
Sure, no worries. All right. So a question we had from Chanel is, do I fully own my NFT minted on OpenSea, or does OpenSea own a portion? And I think this can be answered through the lens of OpenSea specifically, but also through any other platform that you listed.
Yeah, so if any platform that you work on, there are terms of services, so you can check out the terms of services on what exactly that means. I can't really fully explain that, but when you're working on any NFT platform, they have a fee of what they'll take from what you sell, but your work is being put on the platform, which means that you're using their contract and their smart contract. So if you would, let's say, want to have full, complete control over your contract, you would have to basically create your own smart contract that's working with platforms like I believe it's Mintable. I don't think it's Mint. It might be Mintable. There are certain platforms in Web3 that are like create smart contracts for you at a very reasonable price. To deploy some smart contracts cost a lot of money. Like I'm talking the thousands of dollars to deploy certain contracts. So that's why another easy way for artists to do that is to use a shared storefront contract on these different platforms. And some people have their own like Web3 website that actually has their smart contract on their website. So when you are selling your NFT straight from your website, they will show up on OpenSea, but they're showing up with your smart contract. I hope that makes a bit of sense. But there are different avenues that you can go as an artist to be able to completely have ownership over your contract or use a shared contract.
Amazing. Thanks, Lizzy. Another question that we received is basically how, let me see how to word this, because we had a couple questions about this. I think Russ puts it best. He asks that, he's creating a NFT collection he's really proud of. including a website and smart contract for minting, etc. Now he wants to start building a community to generate interest and sales. He notes that Twitter and Discord he knows are the best places to do this, but how do I get followers and engagement when I'm essentially starting from scratch?
Okay, that's a really good question because I know that it's really hard, especially if you're just starting off and you're like, okay, but who am I talking to? When I started off in this space, Clubhouse was a very big platform that a lot of people were using, and I think still do. So definitely tap into Clubhouse to see. But there is now Twitter Spaces. Now, Clubhouse was an amazing audio platform because you as someone new could go into a space and basically listen into conversations, join into conversations, add to conversations. And then there were spaces curated for people who are new to be able to express themselves and talk about their art, which now you're seeing a lot of on Twitter. So I think right now the best thing to do would be to kind of like start searching through Twitter spaces and see what spaces are welcoming to newcomers who want to share their work, spotlights, maybe even creating your own Twitter spaces, and figuring out who you can collaborate with on discussion so that you have a panel or you can join panels so that as you're starting to grow, you're starting to speak to people, and those people will start following you and listening in more, joining into what you're doing because you're actively expressing yourself. Video content also travels really well. So if you are going on something like TikTok and you're actually creating video content and explaining what it is your collection or your work is about, you never know what the possibility of who sees that video. You can gain a lot of traction from people seeing that. You can take that content again and you can reproduce it and put it on all these other platforms to really get engagement and get people to understand because you want to get grasp people's attentions quickly. So video content always seems to do very well. So I would suggest those two ways to really start at grassroots and trying to build your communities.
Thanks, Lizzy. People really liked that question, which is awesome. We had another person, and actually a couple of people ask this question in particular. I think Marlana puts it best. She's wondering, are there any recommendations for how to price NFTs or how many to release at a time?
So I love this question because what trust me, when I first started, I remember I was like, I'm an amazing artist. I should sell my work for $1,000 because I'm worth it. And that's like I am worth it. However, you have to think about the fact that in my mindset, I was like, oh, I'm selling to whales. Like there are people with money that are dropping money, right? But how do they know you? Who like why exactly? And you have to think about this as an artist and think about this rationally. Why are they going to spend thousands of dollars on someone they have no idea who is, right? So at that time, I was like pricing my stuff really high, also because I made a sale that was really high at the time, but I didn't have that understanding of the space. I wasn't known, like people didn't know who I was. So I couldn't just assume that I should be selling to whales. I had to really, think about community people, think about making friends, making connections. And if I'm trying to sell to them, they don't necessarily have like 5 ETH to just drop on this one thing. I had to start being realistic to what people and average people have to spend on something. It's a little bit different in the cryptocurrency space because zero point 0.5 or zero point 0.2 still is a lot of money, but in comparison, if you're looking at crypto, it's a lot cheaper than 5 ETH. So I had to start looking at like, okay, well, if I'm gonna sell my stuff at, and this was the Ether Puffs, if I'm gonna sell this at starting sale at the first one that I dropped was 0.035 Ethereum. And I basically started to do a curving bond. So the next one would be 0.0, so it was 0.03, 0.035, 0.04, 0.045. And every time I like batch dropped a few, I would just increase it just incrementally because then I'm also creating the demand of price increase because the people who bought it earlier on bought it for a lower price, and the people who are buying it now are also buying it at a higher price, meaning that the value is going up because people are still buying it at whatever price I set it at. And then understanding that there was going to be an equilibrium. Like if you start doing it too high, they might not sell. So it was really just about like throwing things at the wall at spaghetti and seeing if it stuck. And I figured out that I had a good price range that was good enough that also I felt I was comfortable at selling at. So right now the ETFs are like at a 0.01 for each one that sells. And to me, I'm like, that's pretty affordable. That's pretty on the higher end, but it's also still affordable, but it also shows that the price has increased. So yeah.
Thanks, Lizzy. A related question from Nick. He asked, because each NFT is unique, does it make sense to set up shop on multiple platforms, or is it better to kind of go all in on one specific NFT platform?
So, this is a good question, and this is something that I had to think about early on. And I think that what's cool about different platforms is that they all serve different purposes. Like there are platforms like Ephemera that is specifically lens-based art, right? So photography, film, and stuff like that. So if you're an artist that does photography, you might be like, well, I think I would want my photography to exist on this platform because it looks nice, or on foundation. But at the same time, you're also thinking about that foundation takes 15% of the cut, and you have to just rationalize that for yourself. But as you're starting off, you can focus on one and really cultivate what that looks like for your collection. And if you do want to go on another platform, that's totally up to you. You can do that. You have the opportunity. This place is permissionless, right? It's just going to be like, how are you going to cultivate that appearance there? You never want to put the same thing on different platforms because that defeats the purpose of you having one unique thing sold to somebody. It will, not to say ruin you, but it's not good for morally. It's not right to say that this is a one of one and then it's actually on another platform. But if you have other art, you could also use other platforms because that art seems to just live better on that platform. But again, it's all up to you and all depending on what you want to do.
Thanks, Lizzy. We have a question from Mr. Lynch, and they asked, is there any understanding why Twitter is the platform? And any hacks on navigating or not getting overwhelmed with the constant tweeting would be helpful as well.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea because I remember I stopped using Twitter myself and I just never was really using it. So when I got in the space, I was like, no, why? I don't want to use this. This is for people that tweet about their lives and things that make no sense. And that was my thoughts, right? Then I got into the space and I realized it's just like it's a lot easier to communicate directly to people and then a lot easier to communicate to broadly to people. I don't know why that became the platform, but it just became that space for everyone because Twitter already has such a large user base. Most people had Twitter, even if you don't use it, you kind of had it. So it just adopted to be that. And a lot of the spaces that things just adopt to be crazy and do very well. How not to be overwhelmed is definitely going to be up to you as an individual on how much screen time you give yourself on specific platforms. It can be overwhelming, I can't lie. But if you think about like, okay, if I need to set up a good morning tweet, showcase some of my work, maybe retweet a few, and then move on to whatever else you're doing in the day, and then come back in the afternoon, retweet, maybe give an update, and then move on. That's honestly how you can like keep yourself grounded and not just overwhelmed on one place, because then there's Instagram and it's like, hey, let's make a story, let's make a post, moving on. Maybe I make a few TikTok videos at once so that I have maybe like five and I can post them now once a day. So it really is about getting very organized, and realizing that your art career is a career, and in any job you have to be organized, or else it becomes very hard to do your tasks because you're all over the place. So if you can set up a schedule on how you need to be, it's great.
I think that's great advice, Lizzy. This is also a career, as you mentioned, and while the art is definitely a huge aspect of it, there's also still business aspects of it too, and that includes doing the research and getting organized. I think that's really great advice. Somewhat related, and actually something that we were talking about yesterday, and I'd love to kind of share your thoughts with the wider group. Ian asked if you need to 100% have your own Discord to gain attention. And I know you and I talked about this. I'd love for you to kind of share your thoughts on that. And he asked, what kind of social channels would be best to promote drops, which I think is pretty clear that, we've talked about Twitter being a really important platform in the community.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I had mentioned Discord, but I didn't make a slide about it because I thought that, well, if you think Twitter could be overwhelming, Discord is overwhelming. And this is coming from me that actually created a Discord. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't keep up with this. It's like, it's just another thing that I personally don't want to do, which is why a lot of platforms have legit teams, right? To be able to monitor Discord. Like, everyone has Discord moderators if you have a really big Discord, because there's a lot of things to make sure it goes right. You have a lot of channels that you have to make sure it are aligned. You have bots that you have to put in place for certain things. Like, there's just a lot of technicalities that come with Discord, which is why people get Discord moderators, Discord teams, to be able to facilitate a lot of the conversations. So I would never really, I personally wouldn't advise that for like an artist starting off, to just start a Discord. But if you are into it and you use Discord, because I know a lot of Gen Zs use Discord. My cousin uses just Discord for fun, and I'm like, okay. So if that's your thing, then that's totally fine. But it really can be overwhelming. And if you're starting off, you want to start off in more grassroots, easy to manage things like Instagram, Twitter, and maybe you also make an Instagram that's like specific to your NFTs. This is what I did, because I have a personal Instagram, I have an art collection Instagram, all these different Instagrams. But having one that's just dedicated to my art and my NFTs was great, because then I can just grow that and make sure people see and know the aesthetics and the portfolio there. But that's definitely ways in which that you can keep yourself sane in this very fast vacuum of a space, and Discord will make it even faster. So don't stress yourself out. Maybe times to come you can get a Discord if that works. But if you also are a project team and you have a whole group of people and you have like a whole project, like PFP project, that's definitely a way to definitely go. A lot of people resonate with it and enjoy being in Discord. So if you can set it up, you have the means, definitely by all means do that. But if you are an independent artist that's just trying to like sell your work, your one of one stuff, it might be a little too much to use Discord as you start off. It's definitely grassroots side is the way to go.
Thanks, Lizzy. A question from Taylor is, she asked, or he, where do you see the future of your collection? Do you have a roadmap for your collectors?
It's funny because like roadmaps, when I first started, no one was talking about that, and then it just turned into that. The future of my collection, I see a lot of amazing ideas. Like, I have a lot of ideas for so many things now. With my job, I'm trying to balance these things, but at the same time, it's like, oh wait, I have years in this. If you really think you're going to be here for years, then know that, okay, sometimes what you're dedicating your time to is that sacrifice, which is what I am. But know that there is still a possibility for so many things to happen. So right now, I'm dedicated to just continuously adding more and more and more unique NFTs into my project. And that can be at a steady pace, because that's what I have to offer. And then from there, it's like I can also provide a lot of my collectors with like unique one of one art airdrops that I create, because I have so much other art, as like tokens of appreciation of like, you know what, hold on to this, because my art career is only going up. So I want to give you this because you own this. Early access to stuff that, like ideas that it's going to take time for me to set in place and put together. uh, a lot of ideas, like you can do stuff with books, and I have books and different things like that. So how do you give access to people? Maybe it's a digital PDF, and there are a lot of really cool ways to do that. Like, there's this platform called Mintgate, I believe, which if you have a token that like the project person puts together, then you can actually access the digital files. And then there's opportunities to do so many different things. Mintgate. Oh yeah, Mintgate. It's a platform that allows you to, I think the Crypto Sonic book, I might be messing up the name, but they use Mintgate. So if you actually own the book token, the cover token, you can go into Mintgate and actually open up the PDF and be able to read it. If you don't have it, you can't open it. So those are different ways that I'm like, oh, I can really provide value into this. I can create like a metaverse gallery of all the NFTs that I've ever created in this collection. The ideas are just so boundless. So it's stuff that I'm working out, but I never want to promise anything. And I think it's important not to promise stuff, because you know that you don't want to put that, I don't want to put that type of pressure on me as an artist, but I know that it's coming. It just needs to be thought out thoughtfully. So, yeah.
Thanks, Lizzy. We have time for just a couple more questions. This one is from Lauren. She asked, how did you get started working or get a job in Web3?
That's always a funny story for me. I was focusing on my NFT career and just selling NFTs, but also sharing my journey and teaching people along the way on Clubhouse and stuff. And I used to get tagged in a lot of like threads, like who should we know in the space, and they would tag me and stuff. And my coworker, that's my coworker now, had followed me, and I was just like, ooh, okay, let me say hi, because you have to learn that networking is very important. And I pride my program for actually teaching us how to network, because you never want to be like, hi, this is my collection, this is what I do. You want to actually have an engaging and thoughtful conversation with people that you meet, and it can be at any capacity. So we were just talking about, like, our love for the art world and art. um, and it was great. And basically, after that, I just got reached out like, hey, you seem like a perfect person for this position, would you want to apply? And I was just like, whoa, okay, let's do it. So I applied and did a bunch of interviews, and I had background and I studied in this space. So it did feel comfortable for me and seem right. And I really saw that there were things that I could provide in this space that, is perspective from a Black woman who is also a millennial. So it was like just great divine timing, I would say. But a lot of opportunities are literally all over Twitter, and it's connections, and it's very easy because there's so many platforms that are looking for like people in the space that know what they're doing and actually have a vision for stuff. So yeah.
Amazing. Another question we have is, how do you cut through the NFT noise, especially when the majority of the audience is the gaming community? How do you
Hmm.
see it?
So it's really important that, like, okay, so if you go on Instagram and you go on the platforms, a lot of the time, platforms will share a lot of artists. If you're following individual artists, you'll start to see that other artists are, sharing other artists, and you actually go into the tunnel of the hole of following different people that are individual artists. You'll start to cultivate your following, right? Will cultivate your timeline, which is how you basically channel out the noise of something specific. Like, my timeline is mostly artists. I barely ever see stuff around gaming because I'm not specifically looking for that. But it's who you start to follow that cultivates your actual timeline, which is how you can kind of like channel out what you don't want to see. So I think that's a really important thing to do. If you start looking at different people who retweet stuff, like, follow those people, because they obviously, and if you like them, like if you like their art, but that's a way to really cultivate what you see and the noise that is specifically one genre of the NFT space.
Amazing. A fun question is from Zaire. They asked, what was the music playing at the beginning of the class?
Oh, you want to hear some music? Okay, so I'm like, again, curator. I love music. And I always host Twitter Spaces. So before that, I'll play music, and it's a chill vibe. It's the song was called "Say So" by Sophie Faith, and the second song was "Moon Shoes" by Raven Lene. Very chill vibes. I, again, as an artist, I love to listen to music as I'm creating, so I'm always on a vibe. So yeah, those are the two songs. Again, "Say So" by Sophie Faith, which I'll type in, and then, oh, I think she said it, and "Moon Shoes." There we go. Yeah.
Thank you. Some other last questions we have is, someone mentioned that they're a craft artist interested in a crossover into the Web3 space. Are you familiar with other artists doing this?
Craft artists, like, I would say mixed media collage type artists, I'm gonna assume. If so, yes, I've seen so many collage artists that are creating and basically crossing over to digitizing their collage work, or their craft works. It's all about just being able to digitally capture it in a very seamless way, and you can sell anything that's a digital asset that to you is something that you created personally. There is always a market for everything unique, especially if people are looking for unique. The space is based off of interest. If you can find people that are interested in your work, and have the money to buy it, bada bing, bada boom, they'll buy it. That's simple.
Thanks, Lizzy. Some two fast questions, and we'll go into one last heftier one. What are some big names or forums to follow on Twitter to find NFT artists? Like, do you have any recommended accounts or handles that you personally follow and really find value from?
Okay. All right. Okay. So I would say definitely follow the platform. So Foundation, OpenSea. There's a group called Black NFT Art, and they share a lot of people of color and Black artists in the space. I'm trying to think about some other entities. That's I think those are the three main that I would say. Zora, follow Zora on Twitter. Follow Latasha. She's an amazing community builder, and she works for Zora, and she's constantly doing a lot. Sound XYZ, which is a platform. I forgot to add that, but that's a platform that's music specific. A lot of artists that are now starting to like realize that they don't shouldn't have to focus solely on Spotify streams, are selling a lot of their music on Sound XYZ and making what they should be making. But if you follow the platforms, you'll see that they're supporting and sharing different artists in the space. Then you can start following them, and that's a way to start to grow who in the space is a great leader and who's really out here pushing and looking for success of other people. And follow me. I mean, I haven't been posting in a while, but follow me.
Love that, Lizzy. And for those of you who have seen the link for the Creatively YouTube channel, we recently had a panel with three amazing artists, one of whom is Jeremy Lloyd from Marion Hill, who they've recently sold out of their NFTs specifically for music on Sound XYZ. So definitely take a look at our YouTube channel if you guys are not subscribed, to take a look at some of our other conversations if that happens to be the path that you're on or the media that you want to work on. But a last quick question for you before we go into one last big one is what software do you use to create your NFTs? Some people were curious.
Okay, so initially I was basically transitioning my traditional like paintings and stuff that was acrylic onto a digital platform or digital way. And then I started to create on my iPad, which is my lucky, amazing iPad. And I use Procreate. I'm starting to learn how to use Mental Canvas, which is a really cool, really cool, but also complex app. And then Nomad Sculpt for digital stuff. So these are the things that I'm like learning to use, but these are basically what I use right now, and digital photography. So my camera.
Awesome. Thank you. Our last question is, what is your feeling on artists building their own worlds in the metaverse and using that world to build their brand and develop community? Do you have any thoughts on that, or any pitfalls or pros and cons with that?
Can you say that one more time? I was like switching over.
Yeah. So someone asked, what is your feeling on artists building their own worlds in the metaverse and using that distinct world to build their brand and develop community?
Oh, I think it's amazing. I think if you can do that, like you can definitely tap into people's interests even more. There's a platform that I added here called spatial.io, which is a way of being able to have a virtual gallery. And that's in itself a metaverse because it's a place where people can actually come in and it's free to use. And you can basically curate your own gallery and have like gallery events and have people come in and be like, hey, I'm doing an event to do a drop, and all your work is in this beautiful gallery. And they even have an aspect where you can create your own environment of a gallery based off of the art or whatever you do. It's called Spatial, SPATIL.io. And it's really cool. You can kind of explore certain gallery spaces right now that they have up. And it's really fun to use because you can go with friends and they just, yeah, it's really super cool. And I think that if you're also creating your own, even better. But there are also different places that you do that with, or do stuff like that. So CryptoVoxel, Decentraland, and Sandbox. But Spatial.io is one of the free ones, and you can play around with different things that they have to offer in NFT world. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lizzy. That is all the time that we have, but we really appreciate you joining us. I'm going to go ahead and put up a closing card that has Lizzy's Instagram information. So please be sure to follow her and shoot her a DM, find her on Twitter. And you can also find us at Hello Creatively on all the things, all the platforms, all the places. But really, Lizzy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and helping share so much invaluable information with our community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining in, tuning in, and bye. I'll see you in the metaverse.